Hello and welcome to a screencast where we'll go over the legal framework for 21st century programs. The goal here will be to highlight areas that you need to know. And as you know, we're a nation of laws, and we have laws at the national, state, and to some degree at the local level as well. Some definitions. Laws, of course, are written in statute. Regulations are rules set by departments, like departments of education. Standards are criterion set for practice and as a basis for a rule. And guidelines are principles used to determine policy or courses of action. One way to look at this, let's say, situation is like a funnel or a filter where our dollars and activity go kind of through the filter machine from the top to bottom, and out comes kids with more knowledge. So we're going to look at the national, state, and sort of local levels. I'd like to begin by highlighting the 21st Century Community Learning Center's legislation. This is something you want to know. It's not terribly long, but I'll highlight two places that are important. First is the purpose. You want to know this, and right at the top it's clearly stated that the legislation and the dollars are to establish or expand activities. So this is all about new programming. Forgive me while I scroll. There are 12 allowable uses, which I'm going to come to in a minute here, if I can find them. There they are. And these all determine what is allowable for expenditure. After Congress and the President sign legislation, of course, it goes to the U.S. Department of Education, and they issue guidance, which essentially tells the states and locales what they're able to do. So one of the pieces of guidance that we have here are called allowable costs document, which you'll be able to reference, and there's good stuff in here that you should be familiar with. For example, at the bottom, there's information about accounting practices relative to fees and donations and what's allowable in those realms. At the state level, 21st century programs come up in the law in three places. First is in Title 33, which states that child care licensing for those elementary school programs is optional for 21st century funded programs. The second area is Act 87 that mandates that the federal SNAC program must be used. And thirdly, in the miscellaneous education bill around the two-vote provision for local school budgets, there is a rule where 21C funds are not included in the calculation. At the department level, you are responsible for following standards and guidelines. As a starting point, we expect projects to follow the school-age care regulations as a foundation, but we go further. For example, we have standards in the safety area, and we also have standards as part of our peer review process, which are evaluated every 3 years and should be looked at annually. There's a number of standards here at the end of that peer review process document. These are all designed to assist in program quality and are also aligned with the national after-school standards. We also issue guidelines which are different from standards. For example, when looking at the FileMaker Pro database, we've issued guidelines where there's an expectation that local sites will develop a document about data usage and sign off on those for all the people who are using that database. That would be a guideline, which is a way to guide local sites. And another guideline would be something like in the example of the statement, all children will be able to participate in programs regardless of ability to pay. So although that's a crucial kind of maxim, it's not sort of written down as a standard or a law, for example, but it's more of a guideline, and it's something that we all follow, but there's sort of levels of interpretation to that. So at this point we've covered the federal areas that you're responsible for and most of the states. The next one, number 7, is the written applications and amendments. So of course you have a grant document, and this is something that you can need to and can reference for the for what you're responsible for as we move down the filter. So it's your kind of working plan and document and agreement for your funds. And if there ever are changes to that, either changes in scope or changes in the budget, of course you make an amendment. And this is very important, obviously, so that the pieces that are being implemented are written down and clear. If you're looking at an expenditure and you've kind of gone through the national, state, and local regulations through that filter, and you're still wondering, what should I do? The basis for all decisions, and the U.S. Department of Education lawyers use this as well, is the expenditure reasonable and necessary. So it must be reasonable and necessary, not or necessary. So you can ask yourself that question. You can also ask, say, 3 to 5 people, and that will help you move forward. In addition, all expenditures must be allowable, and if you have a question about that, you can simply call me. Finally, the expenditure must be allocable. Let me try that again. Allocable. There I go. And that just basically means that there is a paper trail in line with the appropriate accounting practices. All of the information that we went through today can be accessed on the wiki on the legal page by finding the link here on the right, or as always, one could type 4 pages and find it that way.